Margaret Holloway believed that faith was something you practiced quietly, not loudly, not when people were watching, not for praise. Faith, to her, lived in the ordinary moments, waking before dawn to whisper prayers while the house was still dark, folding clean laundry with hymns humming under her breath, placing her offering in the envelope without ever writing her name. She never wanted to be seen. She only wanted to be faithful. That belief followed her the day she first walked into Grace Fellowship Church, newly married, nervous, and hopeful. The doors were heavy. The sanctuary smelled of old wood and candle wax, and sunlight spilled through stained glass like promise. She squeezed her husband Thomas's hand and whispered, "This feels like home." For most of her life, it was. Margaret gave to that church the way one gives years to a garden. Slowly, patiently, faithfully. She taught Sunday school for children who grew up and stopped coming. She organized potlucks, cleaned classrooms, stitched banners, and prayed over marriages that lasted and ones that collapsed quietly. When someone was sick, Margaret cooked. When someone died, Margaret sat with the family long after others left. She was dependable. And because she was dependable, she became invisible. Thomas died on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. No warning, no long illness, just a sudden pain, a book slipping from his hands, and silence that filled the room too quickly. Margaret held his hand long after it went cold, waiting for something, anything, to change. The church came at first. Flowers, cards, voices telling her she wasn't alone. But grief doesn't end in weeks. It stretches. And slowly the visits faded. The phone rang less. The names around her changed. Younger families filled the pews. Margaret stayed, but she felt herself becoming a shadow. Still, she went every Sunday, third row, left side. It mattered to her that the seat remembered her, even if people didn't. Aging arrived quietly. First stiffness, then pain, then hesitation before standing. One winter morning, Margaret slipped in her kitchen and lay on the floor staring at the ceiling for hours. Not injured badly, but afraid. Not of falling again, of being alone. After that, she stopped attending church, not because she wanted to, because she couldn't. She waited for someone to notice. Surely someone would. Weeks passed, then months. No visits, no calls, no prayers. Her seat was filled by someone else. But every month, Margaret still wrote a check. Her handwriting shook. Her savings thinned. Sometimes she skipped fresh food to make sure the envelope went out on time. God comes first, she told herself. But late at night, when the house creaked and the walls felt too close, she wondered if anyone remembered her name. Margaret sold a small piece of land Thomas had inherited long ago. It wasn't much. She didn't mention it to anyone. But someone noticed, and suddenly, everything changed. Pastor Allen knocked one afternoon, smiling wider than she remembered. "I've been meaning to come," he said, stepping inside easily. "The Lord put you on my heart." They prayed longer than usual. He spoke about heaven, about legacy, about how faithful servants honor God even at the end. Before leaving, he placed a small wooden donation box on her bedside table. "For convenience," he said gently, "so you don't strain yourself." Margaret stared at the box after he left. It wasn't heavy, but it felt heavy. After that, they came regularly, always kind, always polite, always circling back to the same subject. God's work, leaving something meaningful, securing blessings. They spoke as if she were already gone. Margaret nodded, smiled, agreed. "Yes," she whispered once, "I'll remember the church." They took that as a promise. They never noticed how carefully she listened. Margaret had lived long enough to know something important. People reveal who they are when they believe you are powerless. So she let them believe it. Behind closed doors, she contacted an old family lawyer, someone who remembered Thomas. Together, they wrote everything down. Dates, names, words spoken beside her bed. Margaret didn't write in anger. She wrote in truth. She wrote about the months without visits, the silence, the donation box placed beside her bed like a quiet demand. Her will was simple, clear. The church received nothing. Her money went to home care nurses, meal deliveries, and legal aid for the elderly, people who showed up without expecting anything in return. She recorded a message. Her voice was calm, steady, unmistakable. The church was full. Pastor Allen spoke about devotion, about generosity, about faith. People nodded, already assuming. Then the lawyer stood. Margaret's voice filled the room. She spoke of love, then neglect, then the donation box. The room went quiet. The will was read. No money for the church. Only one final envelope. Inside was the donation box, empty, and a single sentence. "You remembered me only when I had something left to give." No one clapped. No one spoke. The church never mentioned Margaret again. But somewhere, an elderly woman received a visit. A meal arrived. A door was knocked on. Because Margaret Holloway remembered those who remembered nothing to gain. And in the quiet places of the world, her faith finally rested.